Welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. Today is April 9th, 2026. Today we have the pleasure of having Tosin come talk to us about strategic analysis framework in business analysis. This session is going to be action-packed, guys. It's practical, real-world insights. He's going to draw from his BCS diploma journey and hands-on experience in the UK public sector to bring strategic analysis to life and show what it truly looks like in practice. We're going to walk through essential strategic analysis framework and build a clear working understanding of the 5-case model, which is the cornerstone of UK government business case development. I'm particularly excited because he's bringing stuff from across the pond. This isn't what you're going to hear in the United States typically. He's bringing some new ideas and some new insight that you might not have ever heard before. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the president of the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. I've been a business analyst for nearly 30 years. My career spans a diverse variety of industries, and I've had the honor of contributing to the BABOK and founding the BA Force Multiplier movement. All that to say is, I'm here to help you. Reach out. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. For those of you who are new to the IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis, we are a global governing body for the business analysis profession. With more than 30,000 members, over 120 chapters worldwide, and 7 internationally recognized certifications, we are committed to making the world better, one business, one project, and one life at a time. The IIBA serves as the global standard-setting organization for business analysis. Because of this leadership, the most respected and widely recognized certifications in our profession come from the IIBA, grounded in the internationally adopted BABOK Guide. And what are the benefits of joining the IIBA? You get access to training provided by chapters across the globe. You get complimentary access to over 25,000 outstanding books, podcasts, webinars, additional resources, including the BABOK. And you get discounts on certification exams that either are equal to or exceed the amount that it costs for you to join the IIBA. There are IIBA chapters in major cities around the world. If there is not an active chapter near you, we can talk about you starting a chapter, or you're welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA. Members of the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter are not restricted to residents of Florida. In fact, we have participants from literally all around the globe. If you do not have an IIBA chapter, Tampa Bay can be your chapter. Our vision here at the Tampa Bay IIBA is building a thriving community of empowered business analysts. So why would you choose to join the Tampa Bay chapter? We offer multiple training sessions each week, including CBAT prep and coaching, and an acclaimed SDLC workshop, among other things. And guys, this year is going to be so much bigger than it was last year. You can view our upcoming events at our website here at tampabay.iiba.org, and they're also posted on LinkedIn and across Facebook. At the end of 2025, we had presented well over 300 events here and during our BA master classes and to organizations around the world. And those events, most of them are available on YouTube, but that's a lot. So to get the index of those events, go to Bob's Amazing Index here at rpchurchill.com. Thanks to Bob Churchill, he's created links by topic, by date, makes it easy for you to find things, including our CBAT prep courses. This is our esteemed board, and I'm so very proud of the efforts of each one. I'm very proud to announce that Imal has joined us as a board member at large. He'll be working with our Vice President of Technology, Kasi, to improve our Tampa Bay IIBA YouTube channel, where we have over 100 free videos and past BA masterclasses, CBAT prep study groups, and SDLC experience workshop. I'm also very proud to note that Bill Powers has joined us as our Director of Administration. He's going to be working with Sarita Duggal and as our Vice President of Administration to get all of the paperwork, all of the numbers, all the statistics in order so that we can represent and be mature in the organizations. All of this work goes to the award that we won in 2025, the 2025 Professional Development Award, given for one chapter around the world. We got the award because we've been working really hard. One of the results of us working so hard is these students have reached out to tell us that our training and mentoring was a big part of their success in achieving their certifications. Many of them are past participants of our CBAP study groups, and several studied along with us using only our YouTube videos. A majority have gone on to lead chapters and organizations here and around the world because we make leaders here. Right now, we have 2 CBAP test prep courses going on. One is Thursday nights after this meeting for an hour and a half. This is monthly for 7 months. I'm sorry, weekly for 7 months. The other one is on Saturday morning, Eastern time, and the time zones have changed here, so I've got to change this, but it's about 1 hour off. If you're interested in these, it would require that you are already studying for your CBAP. Give me a call, talk to me through LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to talk to you about getting into one of these courses. But you have to be already studying because we're too far in for you to join now. You'd be lost. I want to take a moment to appreciate all of our partners, but our number one partner group is you, IIBA members and those who participate with our chapter. We're partnered with over a dozen other IIBA chapters worldwide and mentoring 4 chapters that are just forming. The chapter in Ghana is our brand new chapter that came on board because I keep saying, if you want to form a chapter, let me know. I've got them hooked up. We've partnered with the Doback Group based in the UK, and then these in the Tampa Bay area. We've also successfully partnered with 4 different recruiting companies and 5 different training provider companies. Our goal is to elevate our BA community. We've partnered with Purdue University. We were very proud to link individuals with over 5 years of work experience with their virtual AI master's program with their students at Purdue University. Through this partnership, students get more than just academic learning. Purdue is hosting a virtual speaker series, and several of us who are mentors have signed up to participate. All of this is being coordinated by our Vice President of Professional Development, Esther. She is doing a fantastic job. So, of the speakers that have spoken in the last 2 months, over half of them are provided by the Tampa Bay chapter. And for these events that are coming up, over half of them are provided by the Tampa Bay chapter. We are contributing to the good all over the world. Benefits of our partnerships include discounts and special events to our participants. Watermark Learning offers you a 40% discount because you're a participant of our chapter. This means that you get unlimited access to the 1,200 question CBAP practice test questions with a 40% discount. Watermark tools are what I use for the CBAP training classes that I teach, and many of my students have expressed how effective their tools are. Adaptive US, who specializes in only business analysis, has over 90 free items on their website, and they offer our participants a 20% discount on all their live classes and on-demand courses, excluding IIBA exam vouchers. Adaptive has an impressive guarantee. If you take their certification course and then you take the test and you don't pass, they will pay for you to retake the test twice. That's standing behind their training. Now it's time to grab your calendars. On April 16th, Taiwo is transforming the way analysts work with data. In this session, he's going to show how Copilot and Power BI streamlines analysis and reporting through natural language, making insights faster to uncover and dramatically reducing manual effort. You'll see how to move from raw data to meaningful dashboards with greater speed, clarity, and efficiency. Taiwo spoke for Purdue University's AI program, and they are raving at how he hit the nail on the head. He said exactly what they wanted to understand. I'm really impressed. I'm excited for this presentation on April 16th. On April 18th, David Verbanik is going to be teaching a Saturday workshop. This is I think, a 7-hour workshop, and he's going to talk about the business case, how to create it, how to understand it, how to work with it. This is a critical skill that business analysts need. There is a cost on this. Currently, the standard pricing for IIBA members is $200. Non-IIBA members is $250. You get 7 hours of credit for this course. On April 23rd, BA Live Conference is coming up in Europe, which means it's going to be early for the United States. But they do have over 30 brilliant speakers and 12 months of access to their recordings in a virtual conference. On April 23rd, Renat is coming and she's bringing a wonderful talk to us, designing AI augmented enterprise workflows. Renat came and talked to us about 2 years ago about security, cybersecurity, and even those of us who thought we understood learned quite a bit. Now she's bringing some things about AI augmented enterprise workflows for you to understand. This is going to be an exciting talk. I'm really looking forward to it. On April 27th through 29th, those of you who are wanting to take a visit to Orlando, this can be your training write-off. Seamus and Bob are going to be there, and one of them is going to be speaking, the other one's going to be at our booth, and we're really excited for you to meet them and for them to meet you. On April 30th, Esther is going to bring the BA Strategy Lab, Games, Grit, and Great Decisions. This is a little bit of fun, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Esther is going to lead us through here. And on May 7th, I'm going to be bringing using Copilot M365 to make your own CBAP test bank. I'm going to teach you how to do it in about 10 minutes. It's so easy. Once you learn how to do it with this piece of material, you'll be able to do it with any piece of material. You do need Copilot M365 to be able to do it. And so if you have that, get ready. We'll do it during the class. Also, the 7th Annual European BA Day 2026 is going to be May 28th, 2026. This is going to be another virtual conference out of Europe, so it's early hours. So I've given you a lot of dates. We have those and more on our website. So subscribe to our events on our website, which is tampabay.iiba.org. Select events and subscribe to notifications. Also, as I said earlier, we have things on our LinkedIn chapter group that you can join. You can join the group. We have over, I think, 1,000 members now. Oh, and Cliff puts out all of our events that are coming up on that on a weekly basis. On YouTube, we have recordings, hundreds of recordings of work that we've done since 2021 in our weekly meetings. So those are there. And to find what you want, I highly recommend you go to rpchurchill.com. There is a link to YouTube in rpchurchill.com at the top. He's got links to everything. So this is a nice place to start, but he has it indexed, cross-referenced, color-coded. It's wonderful. So now I'm going to turn it over to Taiwo and he can start our presentation. Take it away, Taiwo.
I just want to confirm if you can see my slides.
I can see your screen. You're good to go.
Oh, solid. Good morning, good evening from everywhere you're joining from. I'm really excited to be sharing knowledge here tonight. The focus of this presentation is going to be on the 5 case model that is using business case production. So most drawing in on my experiences in the UK public sector. Just for a very quick outline, we'll be looking at, again, just a very quick introduction about myself. We'll be looking at some 3 case studies, just to like set sort of like conversation for what I will be presenting on the 5 case model. I currently work as a senior business analyst with the NHS Business Service Authority in the UK. Prior to that, I was working with the Scottish government, and long before that, with the London Borough of Hillingdon. These are majorly public sector organizations here in the UK. Did my master's with the University of Edinburgh Business School, and I've got some sort of like certifications from CBAP to the BCS Diploma and APMG in the light of business analysis. When I'm not doing business analysis, I like to travel. Last summer, I was in the US and Canada, and this summer, I'm hoping to go to New Zealand, Australia, and probably touch base at Singapore too. So let's go into our presentation. First, I have got some 3 case studies just want to use to set context for my presentation tonight on the 5 case model. Sometimes in 2002, there was a major project that was launched in the UK called the NHS National Programme for IT. The core of the project was to like revolutionize how healthcare services is delivered in England. But sadly, in 2011, after spending more than £12 billion, as against the initially projected £2.3 billion for the project, it was eventually like stopped because it couldn't deliver the outcome for which the money was, initially commissioned to do the project. Among the various reasons why this project was deemed to have failed was that there was no effective, very solid business case that was put into place to ensure that there is stakeholder alignment, and also to ensure that benefits are like delivered as projected when the project was being commissioned. If we move from the UK and we go to the US, there is a very popular project many of us might be familiar with, which is the Google Glass project. Again, commissioned in 2012, and it was discontinued in 2015. There were various reasons, depending on what sources you read online, in terms of why this project failed. But among the very many reasons that were laid out according to various analyses, was that there was really no strong market demand for the products. Again, this boils down to not building very robust business case to justify why that huge amount of money that had been invested into the products was supposed to have been spent in the very first place. Of course, it's not an absolute failure because it still laid the groundwork for some of the future wearable piece of technologies on research and development work that are being done in the field of AR. But we know, of course, when there is no solid business case put into place, there's a likelihood for a project to fail. If we move from the US and we go into Canada, there is this very popular project called the e-Health Ontario project. Again, it was a project that was commissioned in 2001 and was scrapped in 2010 after spending more than $650 million, which had yielded no really very solid outputs. Again, according to various sources, in terms of why this project failed, is that there was not a well-developed business case, which was looking through all of the risk and doing all of the benefits that the project was supposed to deliver. Across various spaces too, there are also examples of projects that failed because there was not very solid business case put into place. One of the more popular ones more recently is the Metaverse project, which after spending more than £10 billion, the project also be pivoted and scaled back because it couldn't deliver the outcome it was aiming to deliver. There are quite a number of early warning signs we see in terms of why a project might be heading into failure. All of which can be edged against when we put a structured business case into place. For example, when we see that we are arriving too quickly at a preferred solution, it might be a sign that we are heading into trouble with this project that we are doing. And if at the very beginning we are immediately ruling out alternatives too early, or somebody is too invested in the project and they are like, let's get into action, let's go straight into execution without doing very thorough analysis, it is a sign that we might be heading into a problem with the project that we are doing. These are some of the early signs that you see for a project that might be likely heading inside trouble. And so all of these can literally be taken care of, these early warning signs we see when we put a business case into place. Just for the sake of context and ensuring that we are all on the same page when I say business case, what exactly is a business case? In very simple words, it is structured documents to justify a piece of analysis for why a project or an investment should be made. It contains different aspects, which we are going to be looking at more in depth in the course of this presentation. But at a very high level, you should expect to see something around the benefits that this project is supposed to deliver, what cost we will be incurring, what risk we are likely to encounter in these projects, and of course the various mitigation techniques that we are going to have in order to be able to tackle all of this. Putting a strong business case into place, it really helps to empower decision makers to ensure that they have the right resources to make the decisions that they need. In terms of why and when we need to put a business case into place, usually when the organization signal the approval of a strategy or a mandate, a business case needs to be put into place for whatever we then need to do afterwards, whether to do a project or to commission any initiatives. And all through the life cycle of this project or initiative, this business case is maintained as a living document. And that means that whether we are looking at an alternative in the course of the project, we need to update that living document to reflect that. If there's any significant change in scope of whatever we are doing, there's a change in direction, there's a major government policy that is likely to impact what we are trying to do, that needs to be documented in that business case because it's supposed to be a living document all through the lifetime of that project. But I want to draw a caveat here. When we say business case, all of the projects that we looked at that failed, and we're like, the reason some of this project failed was because there was no business case in place. It doesn't mean that business case means that a project can never fail. It means that we can reduce the likelihood of that failure due to the many thorough analysis we will have done in the course of putting together that business case. So we'll have looked at a number of options. We'll have thought through the risks that we are likely to face in this project. We have thought through the various stakeholders that are going to be impacted or need to make very important decisions on this project, and we are able to get alignment from all of them. And doing all of these very rounded, thorough analysis ideally should reduce the likelihood of that failure. But it doesn't mean that because we have a business case, there can never be a project failure. And so at what point do we then develop a business case? In terms of what even leads to a business case in the very first place, there is a flow that is quite popular within the public sector. First of all, there is what we call strategic analysis, which is when we do sort of a scanning of the environment, whether our internal environment or our external environment, using various strategic analysis tools, which we'll talk about very shortly. Those strategic analyses always drive what we call policies, strategies, initiatives, and targets. So an organization does analysis in terms of what is the new government regulations, all right? What are the expectations from what our customers that we're serving are saying? What are some of the threats that are likely to impact our services? We do a number of these analyses here. And we know that the goal of any analysis is to drive and shape policies. And so policies are being shaped because of this analysis that has been done, strategies are being developed, initiatives are being come up with, and then targets are being defined by various organizations. So all of these are prioritized. And then what comes out of this is what we call a program. And so you see many organizations, with respect to delivering the policies and strategies they have put into place, they come up with programs. And programs then is broken down into projects. And projects, when implemented, leads to new or improved transformation within the business service. And of course, when you do deliver these, we expect that there should be an outcome that will be realized. It is at the stage of this program formulation and project delivering that we build business cases within the public sector here in the UK. And so when we talk about this strategic analysis part, which I was talking about here, ideally there are a number of analyses we do, but just at a very high level, we could do internal analysis, which involve looking at within our current organization, what are some of the resource constraints that we might have in terms of, are we having some financial challenges? There's something wrong with how we manage our internal resources, from employees to IT systems, and all of those things that enable an organization to be able to respond very well to changes internally. And so we do things also like SWOT, where again you are looking at your strengths and weaknesses from an organizational perspective, and then you come up to do some external analysis tools from PESU to butterfly forces. And many of those analyses we do to be able to understand what is happening in our external environments. You copy that with things like puppets, where you are trying to look at your organization holistically. You are able to have a well-rounded view that shape the policies that you do. And for the sake of alignment in terms of what we mean by programs and projects, one way to think about program is delivering an outcome, and project is delivering an output. And program is usually an umbrella for multiple projects. And if we look at a simple example in terms of how policies get broken down to strategy and down into program and then into projects, if the response of the government, for example, is to reduce urban traffic congestion, we know that the strategy around that might be to promote public transportation, among other strategies that they might have. If we drill down a little bit into the strategy, we'll have what we call the urban transport development. And then if you see what series of projects can be inside of this urban transport project, you can see development of a new metro line, for example, can be a project. under this. And so we see that analysis being conducted always lead to like informing policies. Policies get broken down to strategy. And at this program and project level, that is then when we build a business case to make justification for why we need to do whatever we're trying to do. So what are the different types of business cases that we have? Again, in the public sector, it's really very common to have these three kind of business cases. We have what we call the program business case, and then the project business case, and then the business justification case. But my focus today is going to be on this project business case because that is what I'm going to be building my case on with respect to the 5 case model. When we're trying to build the project business case, there are 3 stages that are involved in building that. There's what we call a strategic outline case, which I'm going to be explaining shortly. The abbreviation for that is called SOC. Then we have the outline business case, which is called the OBC, and then the full business case, which is called the FBC. And we'll be exploring this some more in the next couple of slides. So with respect to these main stages involved with building a project business case, the strategic outline case is that part of the business case where we are ideally trying to set out the problem that we want to solve. We're trying to make a case for a change that we want to make. As you realize, anytime you're trying to implement a project, many times than not, you're trying to introduce a change. Whether you're trying to, re-engineer the process, you're trying to improve the process, you're introducing a new piece of technology, or you want to change how people are doing whatever they are doing, you are introducing a change. And so the part of the business case that responds to setting that argument for why we are doing what we want to do is a strategic outline case. And so when this is built and, they were made a very critical support for why an investment should be made, it can progress to what we call the outline business case. Again, it's this document that we are delivering, which I'm going to explain some more in the next couple of slides, being built up some more, and then these other elements are added to it, where we are looking at, determining value for money. Value for money is a very big word in the public sector because we are spending taxpayers' money, and there has to be value for it. We have to ensure that the money we're spending it judiciously. We're using the right money to fix the right problem, to deliver the right outcomes, or for the citizens. All right. So at this OBC level, we are determining the value for money. We're confirming funding and affordability, and then ultimately we are planning for successful delivery. After all, when you deliver a project, it has to be effectively delivered for people that will be your final end users. And at the full business case level, we are procuring the solution. If it has anything to do with procurement, managing the contracts and then ensuring like the delivery. And so if we were to picture it from a gateway point of view, everything we do start with a research, and then that research then leads to like us making a case for change at this strategic outline case. Yes, we've done our research. We believe that there is a case for doing XYZ projects. And the decision that comes out of this development of the SOC is that one of the major decisions that we need to make once we have developed a strategic outline case is that we'll come up with a list of like options that needs to be considered to fix the problem we are trying to deliver. As a result of this, our analysis, the very reason why we are trying to do the projects. So we don't just say that this is a problem we are trying to solve, this is the solution to follow. We have to start with a list of options. That option gets taken into the OBC level, and then we are identifying the preferred option among the many options that we have identified at the very beginning. Then that option gets taken forward for procurement. We deliver that, finding the most economical of that, and then we make a decision for contracting, and then funding is released, and then the project is delivered. So let's talk about the 5 case model and everything I've been saying with respect to the strategic outline case, the OBC, and then the FBC. When we say the 5 case model, what exactly are we talking about? The 5 case model is a framework that is used for building business cases and ensuring that the analysis we are doing has been looked at from multiple perspectives. And the reason for that is that we want to be able to deliver something that is very comprehensive and structured and allows that any decision maker that is handling the documents, they are able to have a very robust view of what exactly we are asking them to do, and they are able to make decisions that shows very judicious use of public money. This framework is very popular within the public sector, like I mentioned. In the UK, for example, within the public sector, the agent treasury has really mandated that anytime you want to do any project, we have to follow the frameworks of this 5 case model. And the same thing in Queensland, and also when you go to New Zealand, these are frameworks that for anything that has to do with public funds or investment, it has to go through the 5 case model. It's growing increasingly popular, but within the public sector, particularly among some of these countries that have been mentioned here, it's a very popular framework that is used for any project that needs to be embarked on. And so it consists of 5 aspects. The first is what we call the strategic case, which is one of the very first aspects of the 5 case model. This is where we are making a case for a change. We're making a case for a change. We've done analysis, and there's a reason for us to do this. We have a justification for why we need to spend taxpayers' money or we need to release funds to do any project. After making a case for a change, there is a part of the 5 case model called the economic case. Here is we are ensuring that whatever solution we are selecting is something that delivers value to the society. Not just this is something worth doing, but this is something that delivers value to the society. Then we have the commercial case. Yes, we have agreed that there is a case for change. We have a justification for doing these projects. We have established that, yes, the society is going to benefit from it. But now we need to ensure that whatever option that has to do with procurement out of it, it is commercially viable. We are going with the right vendor, or with the right supplier, with the right capability, able to deliver the project for us. Then there's a financial case. It is not enough that we have an initiative that is going to benefit everyone. We need to also establish, do we know where the money is going to come from? Right? Do we have the funding for this? Do we have the right envelope to be able to release to deliver this project? And more importantly is the management case. So we've established a case. We know there's going to be value released to the society. We are sure that we have the right supplier to do the work for us. We know where the money is coming from. How then do we deliver the projects? That is about change management, benefit realization, and all things related to that. So if you were to picture the 5 case model more succinctly on the strategic case, that is us planning and defining why change is needed. At the economic case, we're trying to appraise the number of options we have and determining the one that gives the most value for money. The commercial case is also doing our procurements, doing market intelligence, and trying to ensure that whatever we are doing is commercially viable. Here, we're trying to know our budgets, what spend we have, and where our funding is coming from, and if it's something we can truly afford. And at the management case, we are thinking about our competence to handle this project that will be delivered to us. We're thinking about capability, the resources that we need to be able to take ownership of the work once it has been delivered to us. And so I have talked about the 3 stages in building a business case. I've talked about strategic outline case, the outline business case, the full business case. This is me on the other hand also talking about the 5 case model. What is the point of intersection of these two? Where do they meet? What do we do with the 2 of them? When you are building a SOC, these are the aspects of the 5 case model that relate to building a SOC. Essentially, when you're trying to make a case for change, the aspect of the 5 case model that relate to this are the strategic case and the economic case. So here essentially is you trying to make a case for change and then making all of the various arguments you need to make to be able to establish that there is a case for change in this document you are producing there. And beyond that is it has to also show a number of options you are looking at and then the ones we are taking forward for further analysis to decide which is the best one to go for. At the OBC level, these are the items in the 5 case model that relate to that. First is the economic case, which is here we are establishing the option here that gives us the most value for money. We are looking at the commercial case where we begin to prepare for potential deal. Which of these options we have here is going to be the very right one for us to, that will give us the best deal. Which supplier can we look into? Who are the various suppliers that we can deal with in order to give us something that is of the most commercial viability? Then we look at the financial case, trying to establish that we have the money and the funding in place to do the work. At the full business case level, once this has been approved by the various people, which we'll talk about very shortly, we are then considering these other items of the 5 case model. So you see that they are all interlinked, and it's about ensuring that at each gateway level, we are building the right content and ensuring that we are looking at the right thing that helps empower those who will be making decisions to be able to do what they need to do. If we were to break down everything we've looked at here in 10 very simple steps, these are the various things that we do. First is making a case for a change, strategic fitness. Is this the right project to do? Here we are literally scoping and preparing for the OBC. And in preparing for the OBC, these are the things that we do. We're making a case for the change and then establishing the preferred way forward by considering these items, which we will look at slightly more detail. At the OBC level, because the SOC hands over to the OBC, these are the items that we consider here, from funding to preparing for procurement, down to the procurement of the solution. And at the full business case level, we are preparing for the deal contracting, and that involves we are negotiating with the deal, we are making arrangement for the contract, and then we are trying to look into various financial considerations that the project might cost us. At this FBC level 2 is where we are looking at how do we successfully deliver this project. So we are looking for various arrangements from project management expertise that is required to change management, benefit management, contract management, and all things related to risk in order to be able to make a very compelling change. One thing to bear in mind is when you are building these documents, like I mentioned, the business case involves the SOC, the OPC, and then the FPC. These are all documents we put together to be able to make a very strong case for what we are trying to do. In order for us to put these documents together, we are not going to manufacture the information. There are people we need to speak to. And many times we always do series of workshops with various stakeholders. For example, when you're trying to build a SOC, there are workshops that focus on making a case for change, where, for example, depending on what stakeholders are decided to be invited for that call, we're trying to establish our spending objectives. That is a workshop on its own. And then a lot of back and forth are done to be able to establish these are the reasons why we are spending this money. And then we do all things to identify the benefit, the risk, and the constraint, and these are all documented. The BA is working on these projects, for example, we are not going to manufacture the information from our head. It is from this kind of workshop that we are able to get the items that we need that will feed into producing our SOC. The same thing happens through to all the other vital aspects and stages of producing our business case. A lot of workshops always happen, a lot of consultation with stakeholders. And it is that reason that then instigate that we deal with different stakeholders in the course of producing our business case. Again, in the UK public sector, these are likely names you see when it comes to some of the works I would do. For example, there's somebody called the SRO, which is called the Senior Responsible Officer. They are usually the one that are tasked with owning the business case. So they own the business case, and their work is to ensure that the objectives are met, and in terms of benefit for doing the work, it is realized. We have the project director or the project manager, the project board, which are usually set up to be able to manage the entire project and then be accountable for whatever it is that we are trying to do. But their major work is to support the senior responsible officer, whose work is to ensure that the business case is well developed and all the benefit that we're trying to get from that, they are maximized. There are also the senior management team or the senior leadership team. Again, these are the various governance that will be put into place to ensure that we are effectively able to do the work that we need to do. Let's take a very quick dive into each of the aspects of the 5 case model. Let's look at the strategic case. What exactly are we trying to do here? In this strategic case, when building that document, we are looking at all things about the organizational overview. What is the vision of this organization that we are trying to build this business case for? For us to do a project, that means that it is something linked with our vision. That means it's something linked with the vision. So we need to know the vision. We need to define all of those things. We need to also look at the organizational structure and every other thing that has to do with us gaining perspective by the organization. These are all items that need to be reflected when making our case for change. Then we need to look at the policy alignment at the national level, the international level. What exactly is happening that is like driving this project that we are trying to do? We need to like document all of this effectively, and that involves a lot of like business analysis framework, for example, that gives us perspective into like gain understanding about the organization from functional view of the organization. For example, what things we do to understand the organization functionally, department that exists, doing things like CIPO, the McKinsey 7S. We are trying to know the strategy, the structure that exists in the organization, the staff, and all of those different things, down to the Potter Hammond model, where you want to understand what inputs are we converting to outputs and what are the various things that we need to put into consideration to gain proper understanding of the organization. CATU and BAM2 are some of the things you also want to use when doing some of these analyses. The next item in the strategic part is to determine the benefits. Here you are looking at a wide range of benefits, from the direct benefits to the indirect benefits, and of course to the benefit to the wider society. And you are trying to identify all of these to ensure that when we are making a case, we can justify that these are the series of benefits that will be released as a result of doing this project. It's also a time when building our strategic case to also understand what are the risks. At a very high level, we are looking at like the service risk, for example. We are looking at the business risk. What risk is likely to impact the business area that this project might be implemented in to take care of. We are also looking at things like the constraints and the dependencies. And as we know that any external condition that must be met for us to do this project is a constraint. We need to know, do we have power over this? What is likely to be the impact of this on this project if we're to embark on it without dealing with it? This is to have perspective on what we are trying to do without running on any assumption that will later prove to be very costly for the project. So again, we are also establishing at the strategic case level what are the spending objectives, what are the benefits that are linked to that, what are the things that are driving that. We're looking at things like the outcome, the inputs, and of course the action plan that needs to come out of these projects. To look at a simple example, which time will not permit, this is how all of this ties together in making a very strong case for change. Next is the economic case. Part of the core activities that is happening when making the economic case is agreement on what we call the critical success factors. And in very simple words, these are the things that success rests on. We need to define what are going to be the critical success factor for this project that we are working on. And so we are defining, and in defining this, we are looking at all things from strategic fitness and business needs that will help frame what our critical success factors will be. But beyond that, we are also looking at the potential value for money. What is going to give us the most value for money? Anytime you are spending government money or public funds, we need to establish that we are making the right use of that money. We are looking at any supplier we want to, deal with. What is their capacity? What is their track record? What have they done before? What is their ability to deliver this service that we want to procure from them? And then we are looking at affordability. Yes, you can do good work, but how affordable is the service they're trying to procure from you is, and then potential achievability. Do they have the capacity to deliver this work? One of the frameworks that is used in the course of this developing that is what we call the long options filter framework. Ideally, these are the things that are involved, and I'm going to show an example of how all of these tie together very shortly. And the more important part of this economic case is for us to explore the preferred way forward. So here we are first of all generating a wide list of realistic options. So we want to generate as much options as possible to be able to have a very strong view of what we are trying to do, what we are trying to solve, and the range of things that fits into that circle. Then we apply that option filter framework, which I'm going to show very shortly, just trying to see these aligns with this objective. It does not align with that objective. This meets this critical success factor. It does not meet that other critical success factor. And then we're able to tick things off based on how much they align with some of the critical success factors and items and objectives that we have identified as being extremely important for the success of our projects. Then we begin to remove the unrealistic options and then push forward some 4 options, which we are going to see more shortly. So if you imagine the filter as this, we have defined the objective. Like I mentioned, a lot of workshops will have happened for us to agree on these 5 objectives, for example, that we might have here, but more than 5 in some other organizations. But the key thing to note here is that there has to be a spending objective. Why are we trying to spend money? We need to identify that. What are our critical success factors? How do we measure success? For example, we need to, highlight that here. Then we now begin to look at a long range of options. But the very basic minimum for us is to have what we call the BAU, which means this is what we are currently doing. We are not changing anything. It's an option to consider. Of course, many times as we find out, sometimes not doing anything, maintaining business as usual can be much better and more financially safer for us than trying to do something new that might lead us into trouble. So we always start with the BAU. Let's baseline that. And then we have the do minimum. Do minimum means that yes, the BAU that we have, but just do X and Y on it, just to do something minimum, but we are not going too far into doing anything. Then we now begin to consider our long list of options. And from here, we then begin to see these aligns with this objective. It minimally meets that objective. And then we then begin to make our assessment from here. This yellow, for example, it doesn't quite align with a number of our objective factors. So we then begin to take them out. But the major thing to then note is that we take forward 4 options, which is our baseline, the preferred way forward, and then some other 2 options that we might be taking forward. This is an example of one of the UK projects that was done, and then just trying to show how the various options we have aligns with the investment and how those form the basis for what we are taking forward as the options. This is preferred, this is our BAU, and then taking them forward for further analysis. And more importantly, is for us to determine the value for money. A number of analyses are done by colleagues who are more economic colleagues who run a number of analyses. I'm going to talk a little more about what roles we play here as BAs in terms of this context. So a lot of analyses are done, a lot of calculations, and the major reason for doing all of this is to ensure that what we are doing, there's a value for money in it. At this stage of the economic case too, is also where we establish the benefit appraisal. So we are beginning to look at the benefit that we have and then trying to see are they cash releasing or non-cash releasing, and we log all of them in the benefit register. Again, some colleagues in benefit management team will likely lead this session. But these are activities that we need to do here just to be able to check for optimism bias. And so we do risk appraisal at this level too, just to be able to ensure that we've identified the various risks we are likely to encounter in this project, and there is a way for us to manage them going forward. And then the optimism bias is us trying to deal with that tendency to be over optimistic in terms of the benefits the project is delivering, and not speaking too much in terms of the cost that we are likely to incur. So it's a way to better have a balanced view of what we are trying to do. Against it, there are calculations that are done here just to ensure that we're not being overly optimistic without taking cognizance of the cost that we're trying to do. And sensitivity analysis here is also just stress testing the assumptions and the options we have to ensure that they are fairly reasonable and things are able to be done. We move next into the commercial case, and here a number of things are usually done at the commercial case. We are preparing for deal. Remember, we have series of options we've looked at. We have then taken forward 4 options, and then we are then trying to decide of these 4 options, for example, this is the one we like to do, and then we then begin to prepare for a potential deal. So here, colleagues in procurement are literally going to be the one that takes ownership of that part of the business case, because they know what strategy is best to use depending on how much money is involved in that project. They define the strategy, they clarify the payment mechanism. How do we make payments? Is it per milestone? Who is going to own what risk? And how do we ensure that things are resolved in the event of any uncertainty or unplanned things that might happen in the course of the project that might want to make things to fall out of place? Another consideration we also have is things like break clauses. What happens if there's any break? Who is going to be responsible for what? An event of disputes, how do we resolve that between the supplier and then the one that are contracting the deal for them? There's also the risk allocation part. Again, it's about if we were to engage a particular supplier, how do we, allocate the risk? What are we going to be responsible for? What is the supplier going to be responsible for? What do we take ownership of? What do they take ownership of? And where do we have joint responsibility? So in the public sector, we know that there are some risks we are going to accept. There are some risks that's going to be for this supplier that we are engaging. And these are the risks that we are both going to share. And even in terms of the sharing formula, there also like be some further breakdown, which are going to be led by colleagues in procurement to ensure that things are effectively laid down. More importantly, is the financial case. Financial case, like we mentioned, it's not enough to say that we have a justification for doing this project. Yes, we know it's going to release benefits in terms of economic case, and we are doing something that gives the most value for money for our stakeholders. It's not enough to say we know the best supplier that we can engage for this project. More importantly, we need to understand, do we have the funding for this? Do we have the capacity to fund this? Do we have budget for it? Who is going to be responsible for that? And so a number of things are like done at this stage of the project in terms of trying to secure the funding. Because as you will find out in many of the government parastatals, there's always how things are structured. So we need to be sure that we know where the funding will come from. We can secure that envelope. All things from financial statement are like put into place in terms of every single thing the project is going to cost and maintain and delivered. They are all accounted for, and the number of things are like put together here. Again, our colleagues in finance, colleagues in accounting take ownership of this part and are able to like do a very thorough financial analysis and appraisal that helps provide a very informed view for anyone who will take ownership or who make decision on that project. The last part of this 5 case model is the management case. There are quite a number of parts involved in this, but 3 of the more popular ones are the parts where we begin to plan for change. As we realized, like we mentioned when we started this discussion, anytime you are doing a project, most likely you are introducing a change. And change management is extremely important, whether you are changing how things are done, you are changing a process, you are introducing a new piece of technology, you are decommissioning the service, you're trying to like introduce trade. Whatever you're trying to do that has to like do with changing status quo, how people are familiar with how things are done. It is extremely important for us to plan for change management. So we need to think about the impact of the change we're trying to do. We need to have regular meetings with the various stakeholders, the management, the customers, colleagues at work that might be impacted by that change. We need to think about things like ADCA, which is one of the many frameworks used in change management. Benefit realization is a very, very big thing in public sector. It means that we have to identify the benefits that we are trying to accrue from doing this project. We need to log them in the benefit register. People have to take ownership of benefits. They have to track them. We need to know who's going to have responsibility for the realization of the benefits. So it's not enough to say that XYZ is the benefit that's going to be realized on doing this project. Or when the project is implemented and delivered, when it goes live, for example, who is going to be responsible for tracking that benefit? We are going to reduce 1,000 papers every single day. Who is going to track that to ensure that indeed this project is ensuring that papers are reduced and things are done properly? More importantly, is planning for risk management. And the other part of this, management part is doing what we call series of assurance and evaluation. So we are doing an independent project assurance where you get people to review the business cases you produce and then to ensure that what we have done aligns with what has been delivered. Post implementation of the program, we are doing other sort of like evaluations too. And then we are also making arrangements for contingencies just in case anything goes wrong. We are sure that we are fine. Here is where I want to draw a little bit of like focus before I end my presentation on these notes. Now, in my previous role, before joining my current organization, we, the business analysts, were responsible for producing this business case, right? It was us that owned the business case. We own it from the beginning to the end. We were responsible for leading the meetings and all of the various things that we do. But in the previous organization that I was working at, actually, in my previous organization, we, the BA, we owned producing the business case. But in my current organization, The project manager, they lead the development of this work. We, the BAs, just support them. And that looks like an interesting dynamic for me to just like see, oh, interesting. And within that, a few parts that I've been part of it just in terms of like the 5 case model is to support in writing the economic case, which is the options appraisal. The rest of the document, the PM took a lead on it, or they take a lead on it in terms of like my current organization. It is their artifact, they own it. But the person that has the overall responsibility of the business case is this SRO, by constitution in terms of how things are done here in our space and in some of the other spaces that use the 5 case model. The SRO owns this business case and they are responsible for benefit realization. Now, in terms of the various aspects of the business case, there are many other colleagues at work that are responsible for different parts. For example, the finance, the PM, so many times we work very closely with these finance guys to do all the various analysis we've talked about. Sensitivity analysis, talk about things like the big financial case, talk about things like balance statements, the envelopes, sensitivity analysis. These guys, they do those calculations, just working together with the PM, and sometimes the BA is looked into it. But we are not the one that own the document. These guys own it, they lead it, but ultimately this is the person that ultimately like own the project while the PM lead the work to deliver it for them. A number of other colleagues we work with, for example, in tracking of benefits, the benefit management team or colleagues, they take ownership of the benefit parts. They fill every single part of that business case. Every emerging benefit you can think of, they lead the workshop and they just work very closely with the BAs and the PM in doing that. For the change management part of the work, the change management colleagues, they lead the work. And when it comes to like the commercial case or the business case, these guys also take ownership of that piece of work. And so it just to say that depending on how your organization is structured, you might not be the one responsible for filling the entire document because it can be quite a lot of things to do. And I also want to say that the time it takes to build a business case varies from places to place, for example, and also depends on the complexity of the work. There are business cases that have taken more than a year to complete in the public sector, some of the ones I'm aware of. There are also some that might be multiple pages, maybe more than 50 pages, 100 pages. And there are also some that might just be less than few pages, maybe like 5 pages, 10 pages. And you can literally develop in less than a month or thereabouts. So just to say that the complexity of the work sometimes determines how long it takes. And as we mentioned, many of this information don't reside with you. And because you need to collaborate with many other individuals, the availability might also impact on the work that you're trying to do. I just said to share that, just to bear in mind that just in case we've seen some sort of like calculations, you're wondering, how do I do that? Sometimes it might not be your work as a BA. It might just be your work to coordinate with those who know those technical calculations to be able to like liaise with them. On this note, I'm going to end my presentation and open to any contributions from anyone. Just to say that all the ideas I've shared, they are not entirely mine. They are from Asian Treasury Book, APMG business cases, they use AI in some sorts, NHS context, because that's where I currently work, personal experiences, and of course, more general research that I did online. And that's where I'm going to end my presentation for tonight and open to any question or contribution from anyone.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tosin. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know how hard a business case is, Tosin may have given you a little bit of an idea today. And one of the things I really liked about the what was it called? Case model.
Yeah.
What I really liked about it is looking at things from different perspectives jogs people's ideas about, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. But yeah, now that you said it that way, or we're looking at it from that perspective, they can give you better requirements. But Tosin, do you find that sometimes whenever you're going through something for a year, people get burned out on it and it's like they don't want to participate anymore and contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. When you work on some really very complex like projects, especially where there are a lot of like ambiguities, nobody really knows anything for sure.
Mm-hmm.
After having series of meetings, argument back and forth, people are likely to like burn out. And I think that's also where our facilitation skills and engagement skills also like come in. knowing how to when people are tired, knowing how to draw results from them, and also knowing how to pace our meetings, and sometimes also knowing when to step back and allowing somebody else who is better at facilitation and at managing some of those situations to also come in. I think ultimately it's about getting the information we need from the people in the best possible ways that we can. So yes, I've experienced that before, and it's sometimes not a very nice place to be in.
It's not. It is at all. Tosin, thank you so much. We are at the end of our time. Ladies and gentlemen, give Tosin a round of applause. Didn't he give us really, really good information? Tosin, if you want to send me the slide deck, I'll include that in the send out for those that attended the meeting on I'll be doing that this weekend. I'm also going to send a transcript for anybody that wants to follow along visually, and a link to the recording. I did put a note in the chat if you want to take a workshop on creating or understanding business cases. There's going to be a 7-hour workshop on April 18th that is available to you. Again, Tosin, thank you so much. Guys, join us next week. We're going to be working with AI, and it's things that you can do, but you've got to learn how to do it. So bring your knowledge, bring your experience, and we will talk about AI with Taiwo next week. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.